Hello everyone, this is Dr. Leili Hatami. In this video, we're going to talk about the classification of life. There are millions of different organisms on Earth. If you organize them into groups, it becomes easier to study and understand them better. So, all living organisms are classified into groups based on their similarities and evolutionary relationships. At the broadest level, life is divided into three domains, which we have bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. So, the archaea is the simple and single-celled, and we call them as prokaryotes as they do not have a nucleus. And also bacteria called prokaryotes, they don't have nucleus and they are single-celled. Eukaryotes, some of them are single-celled and some of them are multicellular like humans. For eukaryote, we are going to define four kingdoms. We have plants, fungi, animals, and protists. And now we're going to talk about these different domains and also kingdoms of eukarya. Please be with me. Let's start with bacteria. Bacteria are tiny living things made up of just one cell. They are so small that you can only see them with a microscope. They are prokaryotes, which means they do not have a nucleus inside their cells. But it doesn't mean that they don't have genetic materials. Of course, they have their genetic materials, but their DNA floats freely in the cell instead of be surrounded by a membrane that then we call it as nucleus. So make sure you know the bacteria, they do not have nucleus, so we call them as prokaryotes. Bacteria are adaptable, which means they can actually live in almost every environment on Earth. They are found everywhere, in the air, in water, in soil, in your body, so then in your skin. So they're going to be found everywhere. But don't worry. We also have a good bacteria, so it doesn't mean all of the bacteria are bad. Some bacteria are good and helpful, some bacteria are bad. Honestly, most of the bacteria are good and helpful. For example, the bacteria living in your intestine, they help digest the food in your intestines. We have bacteria help making foods like yogurt and cheese, or there are bacteria they help decompose dead plants and animals to recycle nutrients in nature. But some bacteria are bad. They can cause infections or disease like strep throat or pneumonia. So we know the bacteria are living thing, right? And we define the different characteristics of life for living organism. One of them was they should be able to get their material or energy or their food. But how the bacteria can get their food? Bacteria is going to absorb the food, like bacteria in your gut. They're going to absorb nutrients from leftover food. And also they can use the sunlight to do photosynthesis and make their own food. And also some of the bacteria can make food from chemicals in their environment, which is called chemosynthesis. So the bacteria can get the food from these three different ways: absorbing, photosynthesizing, and also chemosynthesizing the food. Some bacteria, okay, so then let's go over the archaea now. Archaea also single cell organism like bacteria. So they are also called as prokaryote cells. It means that again they have their DNA or genetic materials inside of the cell freely floating, but not going to be found inside of the nucleus. So they do not have nucleus, no nucleus for these organisms, and we call them as prokaryotes. Okay, So let's see, where can we find the archaea? Archaea live in extreme environments like very hot, like hot springs, volcanoes, or very salty environment like salt lakes, very cold environment deep in ocean, or even in the environment there is no oxygen like deep underground or in mud. So we have archaea. Should we be worried about the archaea in those places? Actually, archaea are mostly harmless. But let's see how the archaea can get their own energy. So archaea can get energy by absorbing food, taking organic material from their environment. And also they are able to make food from chemicals. We call this as chemosynthesizing the food. So these are regarding the bacteria and archaea. But now let's talk about the eukarya. So as you remember, we divided eukarya into these four kingdoms: protist, plant, fungi, and also animal. So protists, they are mostly single-celled, but some of them can be multicellular. So they can be single cell or multicellular. They are eukaryotes, means that their genetic information, their DNA would be found inside of their nucleus. So they have a nucleus, all of this. Where we can find protists. So they live in water or moist places, um, like algae, slime mold, water mold, and they can absorb the food and they can do photosynthesis by using the sunlight, and also they can ingest the food. So these are the ways that they actually can get their material or food or energy. Then let's talk about the fungi. Fungi are multicellular, mostly are multicellular, but also we have a single cell fungi, which is actually yeast. Yeast are single celled. So the example of fungi like mushroom, yeast, mold, ringworms, these are fungi. How they gonna get their food or material from their environment? They can absorb the food from dead matter, and so it means that they do not make their own food in photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. They only can absorb the food. Then we have plants. It's easy. Like the plants are multicellular. They can get their they can make their own food by using the sunlight through photosynthesis. The example like trees, flowers, and grass. And then we have animal. They're also multicellular. The way that they can get their energy or material or food is through ingesting. They are going to eat other organisms, so they are ingesting the food. We are not going to make our own food. We are ingesting the food. Like the example for animal, humans, dogs, bird, fish. All animals can be grouped into two main types based on whether they have a spine or they do not have a spine, or vertebrae or they do not have vertebrae, or vertebral column or backbone. So then we are going to divide animals into these two groups: vertebrae and invertebrate. It means no or none. It means they have spine, or they do not have a spine. Okay, so the vertebrae are the animals. They have spine, they have a nerve cord protected by their vertebral column, and we can divide them to several major groups. So we have fishes, we have amphibians, we have reptiles, we have birds, and also we have mammals. Mammals, the vertebrates, these are vertebrae which they have hair or fur and mammary glands. So we call them as mammals, like humans, raccoons, and seals. But how about invertebrate? They do not have the internal skeletal support structure like vertebrae. Mostly they can have like the external support structure like a snail. Okay, so the best example for invertebrate is earthworm, insects, and snail. Okay, so the last part is that humans are related to the other animals. So humans are primate animals, primate mammals. Which they are most closely related to the apes. We are distinguished from ape by our highly developed brain, completely upright stance, creative language, and ability to use a wide variety of tools. Humans did not evolve from apes. Apes and humans share a common ancestor. So today's apes are our evolutionary cousins. So our relationship to apes is analogous to you and your first cousin being descended from your grandparents. So we could not have evolved directly from our cousins, right? Because okay, so it's the same for the human and ape. So then humans are related to the other animals, as we said. The one that we are very, very closely related are apes, but we are different than apes because of these unique features. We have the highly developed brain, we have completely upright stance, we have creative language skill, and we are able to use the variety of tools. So we and humans are cousins, and we have a common ancestor. Okay, so in this video, we actually talked about the like different classification of life. We divided the living organism to 3 domains, and then we talked about the eukaryotes and those 4 kingdoms. Thank you so much for your attention.